Alright, so in this video we'll be looking at multimeter tester for electrical, and we have three multimeter, one, two, three. This multimeter, we notice it's a bit different from this one in the middle. Is a bit different from this one. This multimeter is almost as similar to this one, except that the functions that are on the multimeter may be more for this one, so a little bit less for this one. When I reach to this one, I will explain. Alright, so for this multimeter tester, we have a power button. These two not working at the moment. This one is in good conditions, working. But we're looking at these two. I'm not going to display anything on the screen. I'm just showing you the different functions and what the different functions mean. So here this one have a power button. However, this one, it is actually this selector that is used to turn the meter on or off. So here it is in the off position. Whenever you switch it away from the off position, we're actually turning it on. Alright, so this one has a power button. Now whenever you press the power button, you will see a display on the screen, and then here this symbol represents resistance. So whenever you select any reading in this white scale here, we're looking for resistance. So we have resistance of just, here it is, 200 ohms. Then we move up to 2 kilo ohms, which means 2000 ohms. And then we go up to 20 kilo, which is 20,000. 200 kilo, which is 200,000 ohms. 2 mega, which is 2 million. Then we have 20 mega, and we have 200 mega ohm. So the mega ohm reading are very high resistance reading, and as we switch back down, we're going to the lower resistance reading. Let me move over to the right. So HFE here has to do with transistor measurement and gain in transistor. We hardly use this function if you're not really into the electronics, and has to do with measuring how much gain you get from a transistor. So if you're not into electronics, you mainly would not use this function much. But let us switch over, continuing to the right. So here we have a voltage function. So all of these white measurements here are voltage, and this voltage, if you notice one long line and dotted lines below, means that this scale is a DC scale. So we can start by looking at 200 millivolts, which is 1 over 1,000. So you divide 2 by 1,000, and you would know the voltage, actual voltage measurement for that. And we go on to 2 volts, 20 volts, 200 volts, 1,000 volts. So this DC voltage reading goes up to 200, 1,000 volts. So here we move into the AC voltage range, and these yellowish indications, they are these AC voltage range, and you can measure up to 700 volts according to the selector switch, and as low as down to 200 millivolts for AC voltage. Now here, this scale has to do with capacitor reading, and these capacitor readings range from 20 nanofarad go up to 200 microfarad. And again, if you're not into the electronics of reading or installing capacitors, removing them from circuit, you may not use this function that much. And here, as we pass these capacitor readings, we go into another yellow readings, and these are 200 2 milliamp, 20 milliamp, 200 milliamp, and it goes up to 20 amp. Now whenever you're using this scale, the amperage scale, you have to be very careful because there's a specific measurement, there's a specific connection that you need whenever you're using the amperage, whether it is DC or AC amperage rating or reading. There's a specific measurement that you have to, a specific connection. So whenever you're going to read for amperes or current, you have to connect the circuit in series and connect the meter in series. But that would be another video for this one. And here we have DC current range. So it ranges from 20 amp DC goes up to 2 milliamp DC. And this is the current DC range. Now this last one here is just for continuity with a sound, and it can be used to measure diodes to say what is positive or what is negative on the diode. And as well, if you want to know if there's a connection between 2 points, you can always select this and put the 2 meter leads on those 2 points. If you hear a sound, there is connection. No sound, no connection. Here is where you can put your transistor if you want to read for transistor. And as I said, you have to select the function that deals with transistor measurement, and you would have to place the transistor in these slots according to the base emitter and collector of the transistor. So this is for this meter, and here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 connections to this meter. You have the 20 amp range to come on, and then you have the milliamp range. So if you're going to read anything within 20 ampere or less, you can go to this range, and whenever you're going to read between any small current quantity within milliamp, you can select this one with common, and voltage is for this one and common. So this is for this meter. So meter carries only 3 connections here, as we would see over on this side. So here we have a meter, and the similar scales for this one is same for this one. Is just that these have some smaller amount of scales reading. So here, turning the selector switch, you can go over to AC voltage, and you can go over on the other side to my left to DC voltage, and these are the voltage range. You can also go to the DC current, and you can see the different current readings here that you can select. So if you're going to read very small current, you start there, and if you're going to read very high current, you select here. For this meter, it does not have any AC current reading, so this one is mainly DC current reading and not AC. Alright, sorry, let me see, current, DC current, yeah. Over here we have DC voltage. So here you have the different voltages for DC, 200 millivolts up to 1000 voltage DC. And if you switch down here, we have the resistance range from 20 mega ohm go as far as, let me see here, 200 ohm. And you can select this function, which is like a wire connection, which gives you very small resistance, and it can tell you whether it is a very small resistance or not. And then we have the diode function that is here. So this diode function actually tells you whether or not you're connecting the diode properly or you're not connecting it properly. And as we said, with this one over here, we have 4 connections. In this one, you only have 3. So we have the voltage and the milliamp range for here, and this is common, which is supposed to be always connected. And then you have to select between here and here if you're dealing with current. If you're dealing with current, you select on this side, and as we said, it's DC current. You don't measure AC current with this type of meter. Alright, now moving on to this one, which is a more technical meter. Seems to be easy to use for me, but It also have the off for the selector switch. There's no button to press for on or off. And you can go to AC auto and it reads the AC auto voltage, or you can select this one which also AC voltage, and it gives you the hertz reading for it. And then you go over here. A matter of fact, this one is used to read like the 110, 220 voltage, 440 voltage, and there's no scale here, so I assume that this meter can go up to very high voltages if you select this one that is here. This here, as we said, once you see a line and dotted lines at the bottom, it is for DC. And here we have millivolts, and it can measure both AC and DC because the symbols are there. Here for ohms, you can use it to read high resistance, low resistance. It does not state on this, but you can use it to read very small resistance reading and very high resistance reading. Here is a sound function to tell you if there's a connection between 2 points and you're not able to visibly see the screen display. You can use this, and once you're here, you know that there's a connection between the 2 points. Here we have a function where you can also use to test diodes, or you can use it to test capacitor, whether it is good or not, or whichever way you want to connect diode, if it is that way or not. Here we have AC current, and you can use this to test AC current once you select this function. This one is for DC current, and once you select it, see the symbol above tells you that you're measuring DC. And this function, voltage alert, tell you whether you have voltage or not in a system. Alright, and this meter comes with 3 connection like this one here. So here we have 3 connection and common in the middle. Once you're reading current, you move over to this side, you just unplug this. So this one, once you're reading current, basically you move to this side. Doesn't matter what quantity of current you're measuring, from small to large. But this is always connected to the black bucket because this is common. Alright, and this one is for voltage. You want to measure voltage, you want to measure ohms, resistance, you want to hear the sound, you want to for capacitor or for diodes to see if they are good or not. You can use that function. So here we have 3 meters, 3 different meters. All of them have similar functions. However, some, based on connection point, may be different, and the amount of selection that you have here. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Have yourself a nice time.